sole mi vinse quasi una malinconia. Giù alla finestra tua restar vorria, quando vien sera il dolce addio del sole. Ma il sol più bello sorrido a me, il sol che splende negli occhi a te, o sole, sole mio, negli occhi a te, negli occhi a te.
What an amazing O Sole Mio from the balcony when the pandemic was just starting, and it is my great pleasure. I'm thrilled today to welcome Julie Nesrallah to the MusiCafe. Julie, welcome. Thank you
You
for
are
joining me
awesome.
today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me.
I'm
Okay.
so thrilled. It's like I was going. I never do this. I go over the biographies a little bit to know our guests and my friends, of course. Um, I don't even know where to start with you. Born in Ottawa, and I took up. You're a soprano, obviously, great opera singer, requested around the world. You're an entrepreneur, and of course, the host of Tempo on CBC Radio. Um, so little girl in
It's a
Ottawa.
lot of life.
Yeah, I know.
It's a
So
lot of life.
little girl with curls running around Ottawa. Why opera,
Yeah.
Julie?
I think I fell into it by accident. I joined a choir. I joined my school choir when I was 8 years old at my public school in Ottawa, Alta Vista Public School. Yay. And we had a terrific music teacher whose name is Sylvia Darwood. I'm still in touch with her to this day. And she was a force of nature. We had a big choir, and all the kids joined the choir. Everybody was in it. All the sport kids, the artist kids, the math kids. Everybody was in the choir. It was back in the day when you just did that in the public school, and she would put on these elaborate shows, and I had these parts, these major roles in these Gilbert and Sullivan productions, which we did, I think, 4 or 5 of before I turned 13 years old. Plus, our choir was a very big choir. We were an excellent choir. We competed. So we sang all over the place. And I always had these little solos. And I think when you're a kid, you just gravitate towards the things that make you feel empowered. So I felt empowered by singing. I felt empowered by being on stage and inhabiting characters. I knew at a very young age that that was who I was, that I was one of those people. Because my math grades in comparison were very poor. I just couldn't wrap my brain around math. I was like, I am an artist, hello. And through the evolution of school and this teacher, Sylvia Darwood, through the years, Sylvia Darwood eventually phoned up my mom and said, look, I think your kid has something. How would you like to put her in voice lessons? Which led me to meet my voice teacher when I was 12. I stayed with her until the day she died. And I never really thought about becoming an opera singer. I had a band in high school that was me and a couple of guys. I tried musical theater, but the whole time I was taking classical voice lessons with Mrs. Barbara Ross. And it turned out that in the end, I had this voice that was suited to opera. And I was like, okay, let me just keep going with that then. And that's how it evolved for me. I didn't consciously wake up one day and think I'm going to be an opera singer, which a lot of kids do nowadays, but it didn't happen that way for me. I didn't know how my singing and wanting to be on stage was going to happen, but I just kind of went with the path that was laid out in front of me. And you're a kid, you don't know. You're just like, okay, I'll do this now. And by the same token, when I was a child, I did ballet. I was a chubby little Lebanese kid in a ballet, pink tights and slippers. And I was in a theater company when I was 16. We traveled around and did improv, and I took piano, I took theory. So I was always extremely interested in the fine arts, and I landed in singing because it was the thing I excelled at and the thing that made me feel great, made me
But
feel empowered.
opera is very difficult. It's of the three arts that I work with, the classical music or orchestral and ballet and opera. It's the one that I find to be the hardest.
Is the
Um,
hardest.
to
Well,
not just because you have to be there for 6 hours, and we'll get into
yes.
a few other details. So, but like you went straight into opera, or did you try? Obviously, you also sing jazz.
I did. I
Um,
did a gig at Jazz Fest, and it was scary for me. But in hindsight, I don't understand why it was scary. Well, I was actually played with a lot of heavyweight jazz people too, and so I was intimidated. Jazz is the thing with the difficulty. It's just a difficult. It's there are different kinds of challenges, and to me, the operatic challenge is the one I was ready to embrace the most. Just in the same way that a jazz singer who faces challenges in terms of like just having to improv and write music and create music on the spot. That's a different kind of challenge. It's not my strong point, but it's their strong muscle. So I think we do gravitate. It's not because it's easy, it's because the challenge, it's my challenge. I feel like I can get up every day and do that. It is I I did sing in jazz. I had this rock band. I honestly feel, and I can say this because I can at the same time say I'm really not good at a bunch of other things. But the one thing I know is that I know how to sing, and I can pretty much sing. Like, I'm a very flexible singer. I can sing in a lot of different genres. So if I need to sing jazz, I can sing jazz. When I'm singing French music, I readjust to the French style. When I'm singing rock, I can do that too. So I've done rock covers as well, both with a classical voice and with just a rock voice. And because I'm trained and I know how not to damage things, I feel really agile in that area. So I am an opera singer. It's the thing I've done the most, but I also feel like I could probably sing anything, especially at this point in my life where you're secure with your voice and you know what you can do. And I'm not afraid of anything
of
vocally.
any challenge. A couple of years ago,
No,
more than a couple of years ago, when we first met, I don't know if you remember when we first met, but I'm going to
of
roll a little
course.
clip there, clip 10, please. You will see there the first time that I met you, you were recording "Oh Canada" for Canada 150.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to, there you are down there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to put a little more volume into it. For some reason I can't. Oh, there we go. With the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, just a little clip, a little taste
It's pretty
of
cool. Yeah.
you singing the national anthem for our 150th anniversary. Really, the
Yes.
first time, and I said, "Wow, what a voice!" It's like it was like
Who's this
crazy. Huh?
maniac?
Who like and it was 12 different languages. Of course, was a project. You
Yeah.
did the English rendering. Really fantastic. I was really blown away by your voice. And
Thank
then
you.
you've been singing, for Queen Noor in Jordan. You sang for Prince William when he was here.
Wow.
Like big star, no, with big things. But tell me, I'm sure that these are not the moments that have defined you or defined your career. So, but which are those moments? What have been those moments that define who you
It's
are?
it's a it's a really great question, and I think people do assume that if you're singing for Will and Kate, I sang on Canada Day for Will and Kate. right after they got married. This was their first trip to Canada. And I met them after, and it was quite thrilling. And I had a really lovely moment with Kate, actually. Um, uh, but I told another reporter at the time, I said, oh my God, it was the most terrifying 45 seconds of my life, because there were 3,000 um, outlets, news outlets, and millions of people around the world watched it, and you just can't screw up the anthem. And so I was really relieved when it was over. I was ready, of course, but you don't, you think that in the moment, oh my God, what if I go blank? What if I'm, it's just crazy bananas. And so you think of those times fondly, but actually things that I remember with the biggest heart were tours that I did on the East Coast. I did this amazing extended tour of the East Coast of Canada, where I traveled into all smaller cities and smaller towns. I sang in barns. I sang on stages that were smaller, and those are, to me, the defining moments, because I'm at the core of everything. I'm a people person, and I really like to, like, for example, if I sing in a house and the lights are down on the audience, I will always ask the tech guy to turn the lights up, because I want to see people. I don't want to sit and sing into this vast darkness of faith nothingness, right? So when you're doing these small tours, for me, when I'm doing these tours, which are big tours but smaller venues, I like that, because I feel that I can relax and be myself and talk to people normally and plainly, and just tell them the story of the music. And then afterwards, there's always a reception, and you're having coffee or a glass of wine with someone, and it just lights up. To me, that lights up my life. I've done tours on the West Coast that way too. I've done tours in Quebec and Ontario. I think I've pretty much done all over the country.
All over the country,
and,
yeah.
And it's, these are the times that my heart and my mind go back to, and amazingly enough, the first time I learned a major role, which was at McGill University, I sang Cenerentola, or Cinderella, for Rossini. It was the first time I'd really been in a major operatic role and been the star of the show. And the reception that I got after that, and I was just a student, has been imprinted upon me as one of the great performing experiences of my life. And I hadn't even left school yet. So it's very personal. It depends on who you are and what your definition of success is in some cases. To me, if I'm up and singing, then I'm successful.
Of course, all of Canada knows you very well, because every morning, for a period of quite a few hours a day, it's that voice.
Yes.
Now we will listen to the third movement of Tchaikovsky, number 5. How did that come along, Julie?
Well, that is a whole other story too. It's a fun story.
We'll be going back and forth on topics. Sorry, they just.
We can do it. Oh my gosh, this is, listen. It's the most fun. It's like having a conversation with a friend. You just let it go wherever it goes.
Thank you.
I was headhunted for that, and at the time I had received a substantial grant from the Canada Council for the Arts to learn 4 major roles in Vienna with a coach at the Vienna Staatsoper, the Vienna City Opera. And so about 3 days before leaving, I received an email that I thought was spam, and so I trashed it. And for whatever reason, I decided not to take it out of the trash and have a second look at it, and it turns out it was an email from a headhunter with the last name Weinsweig. And that is significant because there's a Canadian composer named John Weinsweig, and I had sung some of his music, and I thought, they've got to be related. So I was really just curious about this headhunter because of his name, Daniel Weinsweig. So I called him up and I said, what's going on? And he said, the first thing I asked him, I said, are you related? He said, yes, I'm the son of John Weinsweig. And I said, oh my God, I've sung your dad's music. And we just clicked. And then he told me what the CBC was looking for. And I said, well, I'm not a broadcaster, I'm a singer. And furthermore, I'm leaving for Vienna in 72 hours. So I left. I went to Vienna, and the first person to call me in my flat in Vienna, Alex, I was literally taking clothes out of my suitcase and putting them in a cupboard, and the phone rang, and it was somebody from CBC saying, we'd like to fly you in for an audition. And I was just blown away. And that's how I tumbled into it, that I never really had, what I call like a grown up job in my life, like a conventional career.
Mhm.
I waitered through university, and I put myself through school, and then I got a job, and then university, and then I got a job as a singer, and I've been working as a singer. So I'd never had an office job or anything like that per se. And I thought, well, and I'd never gone through like a formal job interview. So I thought, well, let me see what I'm made of. Let me see what happens, fully expecting not to get it, but just let me see how far a
You can take
bohemian
it.
artist type like myself can go. And I ended up getting second, called again for the callback. Shortlisted is the word. And then they sent me back to Vienna. And about a month later, I got a call and they told me I got it. And I thought they were joking.
It's
I
always like
said,
that, no? When they say that they got
yeah,
it wrong. Did you get the
it
right
was
phone
so,
number there?
yeah, it was so far out of the realm of possibility because of where I was physically far in my brain. I'd never considered anything else except I always thought, if anything fails, I probably work in a restaurant or do something food related. That's all I've known. And this was just so far out of the realm of possibility that my brain understood we'd like to hire you for the job. But the first thing I said to at the time, I didn't know he was my boss, but I said, are you guys crazy? It's two guys on the phone. I said, no, we're serious. I said, I actually don't know what to do right now. They said, well, go out and have a drink. So I went to a Mexican restaurant in Vienna and I had a drink by myself and just toasted to myself and just went, I don't know what's ahead, but I just got a job in radio, so let's do that for a while and see what
It's
happens.
amazing. That's you stumble into those things. And by the way,
100%.
2 blocks from the Stadtoper in Vienna, the best Turkish restaurant, and I can't remember the name, but
Oh,
it's like
so much good
so
food
good.
there.
I know, I know.
So much good food.
It,
And just walking, I lived around the corner from Mozart's house. So I would go on my way to the Staatsoper. I would stop at Wolfi's and be like, Wolfie, all hail to Wolfie, and then keep going up this hill. It was crazy. And then you go down these avenues where Beethoven once was, drunk and disorderly. And it got so under my skin, Vienna. I love it so much. I
it's such
felt
such a
weirdly at
beautiful
home
city.
there.
Eh?
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
There, I
So I flew home on Canada Day
oh, there
to
you
start
go.
to
To
start
start.
and a week later I was at CBC in training.
Amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah.
I remember my
Great.
trips to Vienna because we worked with the Symphoniker there. And,
Oh,
you go through, like just in that stretch, where the opera
yes.
on the way
In the
to the
first.
Music Verein is. Everything is there. Absolutely everything in music is there. And the food is amazing.
The
And,
food is
and, and
amazing. The wine is cheap. There are great or little orchestras everywhere. There are great operas to see. I mean, I saw 3 operas at the Staatsoper. I saw Renee Fleming sing Capriccio. Like it was bonkers. She was right there. I was in the front row. I sang for important conductors. It's like a dream.
she's so great, Renee Fleming. I was taken aback. I interviewed her, I think, a little over a year ago in Washington.
Oh, wow.
What
Okay.
a fantastic lady. It's like
She's a real
she
person.
that
Yeah.
she no no perfect. It's like interviewing. Everything was set up for her, and I thought, oh my god, I was interviewing for a show on Gian Andrea Noceda that we're currently editing, and I had to interview her and Anna Netrevko. And I was like, I don't know anything about music to this level. How am I going to? She made me feel so comfortable. It was really
Yes.
amazing. She's quite incredible.
That is so lovely.
I want to tell you that one of the things that you told me earlier, that your teacher Sylvia, you still stay in touch with her, and I'll tell you why it clicked on me. My one of my favorite teachers ever was my history teacher in high school, or in junior high, and her name is Sylvia, and we stay still in touch.
Ah,
Which is really,
what a
if,
coincidence.
if
Yeah.
she's looking, if she's watching, hi
Hi,
Sylvia. I hope
Sylvia.
we talk again soon. Um, um, I said we would not get political, and I promise I will not get very political. But I want to ask you because you told me that you got enamored in music because of the music program in school. And right now, like in general, worldwide, this is not a local issue. Schools reduce their musical programs, and I find it really incredible that they do that because, the best way of learning math is with music. So I just don't understand why the education is not stronger in the music world. Not only in music, but in general. Like, it's so easy to learn things with music. Like the ABC, you learn it with music.
It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake, and you hear people like Sir Simon Rattle, who's a hugely vocal about things like that. Same with the violinist Nicola Benedetti. She's very pro music education. It is a huge mistake, and I came to it before. I knew I was a musical little creature way before. My dad bought me books to learn the notes, and I plowed through them, and it's just something inside. But I always say, thank God the music program was there, because it would not have been recognized. It is a huge mistake because music is hugely enchanting to the developing brain, and it's hugely powerful to a developing brain at that age. So even if you don't become a musician, learning music, learning how to sing inspires terrific brain activity. It is great for intellect, emotion, for shyness, for belonging, for intellectual capacity. There are so many powerful elements to learning music as a child, which you will benefit from as an adult, that Simon Rattle has actually said music should be a right, that all kids should have the right to music. And so he's developed a bunch of programs that support that vision. But I agree with you 100%. It is always the first thing to get cut because people feel like, well, learning math. You can see their logic, you can see how they're thinking, but they have to extend their own thoughts beyond that and see music as something, as a hugely intellectual, informative, and developmental subject that should be included at all levels. You wouldn't even dream of taking away, this is from James Ennis, who made a good point, said you wouldn't dream of excluding Shakespeare and all the great writers, playwrights, and D.H. Lawrence, all of them, from your academic list. So why do the great geniuses like Beethoven and Mozart and Florence Price and Amy Beach, why are they being excluded? They're massive geniuses, and even if you're not a musician, you need to know about them. So it is a huge mistake.
It is. I'm going to try to talk to Nicola, who I've met several times, and ask her, because she just opened a foundation for music education.
Yes, she did. Yes.
In the fall. She's fantastic. It's like when I try to play the drums, I always remember you need to count, but don't say it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Don't say
1, 2, 3, 4.
The cognitive stuff that's going on in your brain while you're playing music, and particularly while you're singing. There are so many studies. You just Google it. You don't even have to take my word for it. You Google it, and it's just study after study after study. I've talked about these studies so much on my show that when I come across another one which is saying the same thing, I said, can't say that again. People have heard this so much, but it's true. You do have to keep saying it. The cognitive benefits are out of this world. Nothing lights up your brain more completely than music. There's no other thing in the world. Yeah.
When I was talking to Renee Fleming in Washington, she has a project with the National Health Institute in Washington about studying the benefits in health. in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's of music.
Oh yeah.
Really fantastic. Where hopefully something will come out of that. That's really important.
Hopefully.
I would love to see music reinstated, as a requirement for junior high, high school. It's so
Well, I mean,
important.
I think the ultimate example too is Gustavo Dudamel and El Sistema, which, I mean, if there were ever an example of music actually saving lives and directing lives, that's it. That would be it.
We were talking about that last week with Leandro Oliveira from Sao Paulo. There's
Mm,
the Instituto Baccarelli in Sao Paulo that they have two orchestras in the center of the favela, like right there.
amazing.
And
Yes.
it's such an amazing social, first of all social, but the kids are starting to do something with their lives because they're playing in a symphonic orchestra that is
Right.
recognized worldwide.
Right.
Fantastic. Zubin Mehta is one of the conductors, just
Oh,
there.
he's
So
great. Yeah.
it's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Julie, I'm gonna play one more clip of one of your ventures because it's gonna get us involved in a lot of stuff. So if we can hear a
Okay.
little bit of Carmen, please.
Uh,
E se nove coglione si riconvia da refuser. Tutto come tua vita, il s'en va, il revient. Et pour le tenir, il t'évite, si
Carmen on
it was a
tap.
great night.
It's when was it? It was I was between trips. I had been in Vienna, I think, and I was going to South America when we live streamed from the bicycle club downtown Toronto, Carmen on tap. So
Yeah.
um, I remember it very well, obviously because we met again there, and
Yes.
75 people can. That's the capacity of the pub, and about 1,800 people watch it online. So how did that come to your mind? How do I do Carmen in a pub
On
in a
tap.
reduced?
Well, it was again by accident. I was on air, and the tech. This was back in the day when we used to go live, and I was still in Ottawa at the time. But the tech, we were listening to a long symphony, and I was working on the show. And the tech came in and said, "Hey, I just stumbled on something online. I saw that there's a small operatic troupe in London, England, and they did Carmen in a pub." And I thought to myself, I know I could. It just hit me like a thunderbolt. I thought, I know I can do that, and I know I can do that better. So that night, I went out with a couple girlfriends. We had already been planning to go out, a pianist girlfriend and a soprano, and we had burgers. We were drinking beer, and I said, guys, Adam told me about this thing today, and they were like, "Let's do it." I said, "I think we should. Yeah, let's do it." So we did not have any clue what we were doing, but I know people. So the soprano was with me, sang Michaela. The other lady who was with me, the pianist, she was going to be the pianist. I'm the Carmen. Okay, I know who we get. It was like kids putting on show in the barn, putting on a show in a barn. We cobbled together 2 nights at a pub in Ottawa, and it sold out in like 10 seconds. I added two more night. I added another night. It sold out in about 15 seconds. Uh, I'm not kidding. Like, it was literally minutes. It was probably about 10 minutes. We were jammed, and so I added a fourth night, and we were sold out. We sold it. I was going to add another one, but then I had to actually go somewhere else to sing in another Summerfest. I couldn't do it. So we did these 4 nights, and it was so successful and so jam packed. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to do this again next year. We had a waiting list. We had 100 people on a waiting list for the next year. And so over a decade, once the summer hits, around August, I grab my little gypsy caravan, and I ask them if they're
They're ready
available,
to do it again.
if they're ready to rock. And we do. And when I moved to Toronto, I found new people in Toronto, and I found a place that has a big piano, Lula Lounge, which has
Yep.
been, which is a little bit famous here in Toronto for their salsa classes and for featuring Latino and Hispanic and Spanish music, and so they have this great
I've
grand
been
piano.
there. I've
Oh,
been
they're
there,
so good.
and
It's
it's
so
not.
fun and it looks great. It looks similar to this. It's bigger, but it looks similar to the smaller pub that we used in Ottawa, which was called the Velvet Room, which actually was reputed to be haunted, and a lot of weird stuff happened during our shows, and it was just like chandeliers and circular booths and dark red velvet chairs. Like it looked like Carmen's hole in the wall. So we took it to Lula, and I've been continuing it at Lula, and we've taken it to Stratford, and we've taken it to here and to there. So we've toured as well. And then I got this cockamamie idea to take it to Las Vegas, which I'm still
Maybe you'll
working
take
on.
over the Coliseum for Celine.
Well, I went to Caesar's Palace, and there was a space on the grounds of Caesar's. But this is a whole. I mean, I could write a book about that all by itself. So I'm on this venture, but to continue, and I keep coming close. I keep meeting people who are like, "This is an amazing idea." Okay, is it going to happen? And then something. So I'm just very quietly in the background, and in the background, I mean my brain in the background is just constantly, okay,
There.
just tell everybody about it, and one of these
It,
days, Carmen on Tap
it's
in
an
the
it's an
Nevada desert.
amazing show. I didn't see it at the
Yeah.
Lula. I saw it at the bike club.
Well,
Um,
the
but
idea is that it's cheap, and you can wear your jeans, and you can eat nachos and drink beer. You can go out for a cigarette if you smoke. You can get up. The waiters are like, and there are no dramatic walls. So we're there. We're there. You can see us taking deep breaths. It's not sexy. The spit flying, the kissing, the clawing, the all of it. It's meant to give you that visceral feel. It's meant to make you feel things close up.
which brings me to the seventh inning stretch here of our conversation today, um, because this combines basically everything you spoke about. Opera in a pub, you spoke about education, and I'm going to quote a little bit both of the guys you quoted, obviously Sir Simon Rattle and Gustavo Dudamel, because we are in a point in history that I don't think has ever happened, where the world shut down for months on end, and
Exactly.
our industry has been severely hit. Yesterday or the day before, Simon Rattle said on a letter directed to the Guardian that he's very afraid that the musicians and orchestras are in peril,
Mm-hmm.
because we will not be able to attend concerts in a while in a
Mm-hmm.
setting of 2,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you hit the nail in the head with Carmen, because you are presenting it in a setting that can be anywhere, can be outdoors, can be here, can be there, can be in a pub whenever they start
Mm-hmm.
reopening, and presenting opera, classical music, ballet in different settings. I think that for years, classical music, as they say, has been dying for hundreds of years. It just doesn't die ever, and it will
It
never
just
die.
doesn't die.
Yeah, it doesn't die. But
That argument just doesn't hold anymore. Yeah.
but what Gustavo said, and I love his quote, is that classical music is fantastic. It just we don't know how to present it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's especially true in this point in time, and in a digital age where now everybody thinks that streaming is the send all and will save us, which
No,
it
it's
will
not.
not.
Yeah.
But definitely, something like what you're doing with Carmen, presenting something fabulous in not its original inception, but in a different setting, in different environments. What is there to do now, Julie? What comes? I suppose that in the last 2 months you had a lot of time to think of what's next. What should we be doing?
I think that, and I've always thought that, even pre-pandemic, I think that it's the smaller companies now that have an opportunity to show how agile they can be, because these are these are the things that people want. They want to go out. They want to spend a little bit of money, not a ton, but they're willing to spend some. They want to have a great meal and something good to eat, and they want to feel something. So I think the onus is on the smaller companies that are able to do this kind of agile maneuvering of classical music. If they can't come, if people can't come to the concert hall, you have to bring it to them. And this is also keeping in mind that it's not just, I mean, nothing's more exciting than a rock concert either. This is all like, I'm talking about being a multifaceted person who is, I'm taking in this night, and then, maybe tomorrow night I'm going to see the Rolling Stones, and then the next night I'm going to a jazz club. I think that the larger companies, because they're essentially streaming this stuff, but they have to find a way to, even if they found a way to monetize their classical concerts, it still wouldn't be enough. So I don't know the answer to the big question about the big companies and what they're going to do. It is scary and it's serious. What are they going to do? Are they going to splinter off into small groups and act like the smaller companies? Are they going to continue to, maybe this is the opportunity to create chamber orchestras out of the bigger orchestra that I don't know, but what I do know is that for a long time the smaller companies, and this is what people are doing now, this is what a lot of singers are realizing, that the market is so flooded that they're creating their own thing, that this is their moment. This is the moment for the small guy and gal to get their little company together and get out there and do whatever you can. The big companies, I wish I could speak to it. I mean, the thing is, nothing beats being there. I don't think that streaming will ever take the place. You're a human person. You want to go out. You want to be in the same room as the art that's taking place. I don't think that elemental urge will ever go away, but the bigger companies have to find a way to be more agile, and you need a crisis to force that behavior. It wasn't a crisis before. They were kind of coasting along. You'd see a big symphony hire a rock star. I won't name names, but you have a big symphony like the Berlin Phil, and then they will ask like a rapper to come and sing with the symphony. That's fine, but it's a gimmick and it's not long lasting. So now the big guys are being forced into a position where they need to figure that out now, because it's a do or die. And I kind of feel like they will. I feel like there are enterprising and creative people. But if bigger companies were having their moment before the pandemic, with the power and the esteem and the cash, and that's sort of falling by the wayside right now, and the shift and the onus is on the smaller companies, then I think that's kind of magnificent. And I think that might be the way in to a longer lasting legacy of this music. You can't go big. You have to start with the small, show these people why this is fantastic. For many people, the Carmen on Tap, it was the first time they'd ever been to the opera, and they thought, I'm ruined. How can I go to the opera and sit a mile away and not see your face and not see the sweat and the da-la-la-la? So I feel like I'm rambling, but
no, it's perfect.
But I'm thinking out loud. It's just like been this, but what the most obvious thing is, there's been this shift in power, that the small guy is now the thing that needs to get out there. The thing that might save this whole genre are the smaller companies who have been in the shade.
Yep. The playing field has been like really leveled now, right? It doesn't matter if you're a big symphonic orchestra in a big city.
No.
It's actually the opposite.
It's the opposite. That's what I mean. It's shifted. It's not even leveled. It's like, you guys can't do what I do right now. That's never happened to me before. Right now, Carmen on Tap is like, or similarly, there are other small theaters here that do the same. Against the Grain is another one. There's I know a couple out east in Alberta. They're pocket opera. There are loads of them, and it's up to us to pick up that torch and save it doesn't really need saving, but save classical music.
Yep. I always thought that it's very nice when you have a big star playing with a symphony behind them. It's always beautiful. It
Of
makes a
course.
show even more grandiose. It's always spectacular to see it. But I always thought Tchaikovsky doesn't need a pop star to save him.
No.
You listen to the fifth, the sixth symphonies in the right
Well, that's
settings.
it.
With it's fantastic. You don't even need to listen to the whole symphony, which is something we found a while ago, that people listen to little bits, one movement perhaps, that really gets your heart pumping.
Right. And they get
Uh,
criticized for it. They get criticized for it. You can't. You got to. That's the other thing too. You, I was talking to another pianist who said, I don't like that they're just picking and choosing. But I said, but they're listening to it. I mean, let people listen. Don't be such a snob. It's not even snobbery, but I understand. It's not snobbery. It's that they want people to see that when you listen to something in its entirety, it has this arc and it has this effect. But
it,
you can't fault them for just listening to the famous movement that they
right.
know either. You have to let go. You have to let go a little. Yeah.
I love listening, obviously, to the whole arc, the full symphony, but I've told the story. I went to see a major symphony in the U.S. in the West, and they were playing the Cinderella, Prokofiev's Cinderella, I think. Fantastic, and there was like a 5, 6 year old girl in front of me, and between movements, her mom had to hold her hands, not to clap. And I said, you know what? She's never going to
Let her
come back
clap.
again. Let her clap. It's like so
Yeah.
sensational. It was like a mid-afternoon concert. I said,
Right.
you need to let people
You need to let
bring
people
out the
go. I think
expression.
Alex, I think even the idea that people seriously argue about whether or not to clap in between movements is indicative of the kind of letting go that needs to take place. People are having big arguments about that. To clap or not to clap, it's a thing. And I'm kind of like mind boggled that that's a thing at all. I feel like if you're an audience member who's paid a ticket and your natural impulse is to burst into applause because you thought something was fabulous, you're well within your rights to do that.
I,
Applaud. It's a if someone else objects because you're in a crowd of 2,000 people,
it should
shit's
be
gonna
more,
happen.
it should be
Yeah.
more. I don't want to get into the discussion, but they do that at slipdesk.com all the time, and they discuss if clapping or not clapping. But,
Oh, do
I go
they?
to
Yes.
all the time. You shouldn't
Who
clap.
cares? Just let people
But,
clap.
you see the movie Amadeus when he's performing the operas, which used to be, the movies of the time.
That's it.
And they're all singing and drinking and throwing things on stage. And I'm not saying start throwing tomatoes at the performers,
I
please
know, but
don't. But bring the expression out. Nobody stops me to jump on my seat when I'm at the Air Canada Center in a rock concert, which I was right before the pandemic, and I miss that moment of.
yeah,
Which
of
I
course.
feel when I listen to Tchaikovsky or when the Jupiter from the Planets of Holes. There's
Oh,
moments that you
I
just
mean,
need to, please let me
you can't.
applaud, let me
It's a
get
big
up.
feeling. You're sending out a big feeling with a big sound, and you're asking people to stay small. You're asking people to come, but to behave in a way that is counterintuitive to the music. It's a problem. And that is, if you're a first time goer and you feel like you can't clap when you think something's good, you're like, well,
That was my, after many years of not going to a symphony, I went to hear the Ninth Symphony in Sao Paulo. And it was fantastic, and I wanted to applaud, and they told me, don't applaud, it's quiet. Okay, I love
yeah,
it, but I need to express also
absolutely.
as an audience, I
I
love it.
know.
Um, so many things.
So many things.
So many things.
We can
So
go
many
down the
things.
rabbit
Julie,
hole.
Julie, we're starting to get to the 1 hour mark, and I
my
don't
gosh,
want to
that went
impose
fast.
on time. It goes fast. I want to ask what makes you tick?
Smart people, good conversation. I think a really musically or just in life.
Everything in general, both. I think it's hard to separate any of them with you
Well, it
because I
is.
think that yeah, the singer and the host and you the person are all one. There's no
You're right.
separation.
Actually, I said smart people in talking, but what I really mean is it's not even about smart. It's about connection. I think that's the biggest drug for me is connection in any way. If you're having a conversation with someone and it's just one of those excellent discussions over a glass of wine and a great meal, and you can just talk for hours and let it go. I think that's great. But what that really is connection. Someone that you can talk to. For me, the reason that I want the lights on when I'm singing with people, at the basic element there is connection. When I'm constructing radio stories for the radio program, I'm really thinking about the humanity of the composers, not the musicological aspects of things, because what I want is for people to feel connected. I don't think they care that the overture to Der Freischütz is in sonata allegro form. It doesn't mean anything. So I think at the base of everything that I do is this strong passion for and need for connection
And I
and
really hope that,
humanity.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that one of the things that we've learned more than anything over the last 3 months is that being away from other people is very hard. It's
listen. I've been here alone in this little box, like, and living in a condo where there's nowhere else to go. And I walk from one, I'm okay. I putter and I'm okay. But it has been, it is challenging. And even I think the reason that I'm so singing is part of my identity is because my need for connection is so large that I can't just express it through voice. It has to come from deep from my tippy toes, out of my physical person, through my soul, and then through my throat to you, because that is how big the lion inside me, the connection lion needs to roar. I need that much. I need to do it that much. So it has been challenging. I haven't been languishing, but I have been eating a lot of chips, which is not good.
awesome.
But yeah, you need other people. People
Definitely.
who need people. This is very inhumane. Yeah,
It
even just
is.
going to the grocery store once a week is like, oh, thank God,
Yeah,
thank God there are other people here.
I was yesterday at the grocery store and everybody's with the mask. We're all with masks and staying away. And I said, you know what? This physical, because it's not social distancing what we're
It's
doing. Obviously,
physical, right?
it's physical. It's really complicated. Me
It
coming
is
from Latin countries, is like for us, is like crazy. Not being able to touch somebody or hug them,
totally.
it's not normal, and that has
No, it's
been
not.
really really hard. And
Yeah.
Julie, with that, we will conclude today. I want to thank you really so much for your time. It's
Bless
a
your heart.
real honor and a
No,
pleasure.
no, come on.
You're so fantastic. I can't wait for this to be lifted in the next few weeks, and we will continue talking.
We'll
Hopefully,
continue.
we'll do it over a glass of wine next time.
My pleasure, 100%.
And as soon as Carmen is back, we should invite everybody to join because it's a lot of fun.
You're all invited over for dinner when this is over. We'll manage.
We'll
We'll
manage
squish.
somehow. Fantastic, Julie. Thank you
Alex,
very
thank you
much.
so
My
much.
pleasure again, and a big honor. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
all
me.
for joining us today. And we will be next week. I don't have the list of people that we have lined up for next week, but I promise it's going to be fun. We have 3 or 4 guests lining up, And Julie, again, I'm sure we will have you back, and we will have you back with some other people as well, so we can have a conversation.
great.
And
That'd be
hopefully
great.
we'll do it live together. Thank you all,
That'd be great.
and we'll see you next week. Thank you.